Hello and welcome into BTN's Take 10 podcast. This is Alex Roux of BTN. Before we get into the episode, a quick word from our sponsor, Northwestern University's School of Professional Studies. If you've ever thought about a career in sports, check out the master's program in sports administration at Northwestern University. You can build your skill set and your network in evening or online classes. Find out more at sps.northwestern.edu/sports. All right, thanks again to our sponsor. And like I said, if you are considering a career in the sports industry, want to work at a place like BTN or elsewhere, definitely give that master's program at Northwestern a look. Appreciate them once again. All right, now for the contents of today's episode. Got a really cool episode coming at you, especially if you are a Penn State fan or an NFL fan, because we have two former Penn State players and two current NFL players. Got a pair of guests that were in studio in Chicago this past week and sat down for our podcast. The first interview is Allen Robinson. If you're a Chicago Bears fan or fan of the NFL in general, you definitely have heard his name. He's been a standout wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars and most recently the Chicago Bears. And he joined us for 10 or 15 minutes and gave us some cool insights. It was fun to talk to him, especially as a Chicago Bears follower and observer and fan, to pick his brain a little bit and talk about some things outside of football, talk some NBA, talk some just general fun topics with Allen. It was neat for us to get a few minutes with him. And the second interviewee is Sam Ficken. Sam, as I mentioned, also played at Penn State. He's currently on the Green Bay Packers roster. We'll open camp with them this summer. And Sam, if you remember, kicked at Penn State from 2011 to 2014. It's kind of a nice redemption story. He had a rough freshman year, or at least a rough game his freshman year, and came back to carve out a nice career at Penn State and has bounced around NFL rosters and was most recently seen on an NFL field with the Los Angeles Rams last year. Even kicked in the playoffs for them. So cool to get two guys with NFL experience, with playoff experience, and get them to sit down and chat with me for a little bit. So shout out to both of them. Those two segments are coming up, followed by a Call for the Culture segment. Our producer / co-host Colleen is back from overseas. She tells us about her Europe trip, and we talk about a lot of other pop culture topics and things that are dominating the sports discussion today, including NBA playoffs, NBA draft lottery, and some Game of Thrones talk as well. So a lot of good stuff coming up, and stay tuned for it. Quick reminder, if you haven't already, just subscribe, download, and find the show where most podcasts are found on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, or YouTube. All right, let's get right into our first interview. We're going to start off with Allen Robinson, Chicago Bears wide receiver, former Penn State wide receiver. That discussion with Allen starts right now. Very pleased to be joined in the BTN studio by former Penn State, current Chicago Bears wide receiver Allen Robinson. Allen, what's up, man? How's it going?
It's good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So just to start, take me through your time in the offseason, what you're up to nowadays. You clearly have a little bit of free time just sitting down here with us right now. So what's it look like for you?
Right now, we get a lot of time early in the off season, so I had spent my previous off seasons, and even now just trying to train in different places. Like I trained 2 years ago in Scottsdale, Arizona. I trained this past spring in New York. So I just try to venture out a little bit, try to get a little bit away from the city, before you have to come back.
Yeah, venture out. Definitely not bad places to hang out in the off season. Scrolling through your Twitter timeline, it looks like you've been tweeting a lot about the NBA. Who's your squad during these playoffs and just in general?
Truthfully, I really don't. I wouldn't say I have a true team. I do like Golden State Warriors, and I do like the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard is probably one of my favorite players. So, and then again, I'm just dating back. I have some ties to Golden State, knowing a couple guys and stuff like that. So I really hope it comes down to those two in the finals.
That's kind of how it's trending. I feel like people around our age follow players more these days. I'm a Bulls fan myself, so I watched the NBA lottery and killed me the other night. And I'm curious if you watched the lottery and if you think the NFL should adopt one in that kind of format.
It's tough. The reason why I say it's tough is because I think in the NBA you see a lot more tanking than you do in the NFL. I mean, I think some teams do, but once you get to around like week 8, week 10, You know, but I think that's the biggest thing about the lottery. You know, I think they really tried to make it so like nobody's tanking. You know, the same thing. I mean, it's so tough to follow players now. Like I just was talking to somebody saying that I really hope Kevin Durant goes to the East and then some of the guys stay in the East. Like Kawhi Leonard goes to the East. You know, just so it has a good balance. You know, I mean, with them talking about Anthony Davis possibly going to the Lakers, it's like I really hope the whole like super team era just kind of comes to a halt for a little bit and everybody just kind of goes to their respective places.
I'm completely with you on that. I like that version of the NBA better. And you're right, the tanking, or I guess the counter act of the tanking with the lottery kind of worked. And it's kind of hard to tank in the NFL because it's like a contact sport. You can't really fake it out there.
Definitely. It's hard to tank. You know, like you said, and again, I mean, just like you said, with some of the teams who had some of the worst records now being at the 5th pick, the 6th pick, the 7th pick. I mean, that's pretty tough, you know. So, I mean, it is tough because me personally, I would have liked to see the Bulls get a top 3 pick or top 4 pick.
Amen.
You know, so it's tough, especially with like the Lakers. You know, the Lakers go from I think whatever odds they had to a number 4 pick. You know, so I think that they can find a little bit better balance with that.
All right, shifting gears. You're very invested in the community wherever you go. We're in Jacksonville, obviously now in Chicago. What originally got you involved in wanting to do this work in your downtime? And your foundation is the Within Reach Foundation. How did this all come about?
It came about 3 years ago. For me, it was something that I always thought about if I was able to get to this standpoint in my career, you know, being able to try to give back, you know, and something that my parents have always held me accountable to as well. You know, growing up, I was privileged, you know, to be able to have some pretty unique experiences, you know, from being able to talk to some pretty big people that I admire and that I looked up to, you know. So I thought that helped me a lot, you know, just throughout my growing up process. You know, and again, being able to give the kids a voice. You know, I think a lot of times that, you know, when people want to say, you know, they want to be a football player or want to do this or want to do that, you know, sometimes that same voice from a teacher or from a parent, you know, can get a little bit redundant. You know, so being able to go out and communicate with the kids, and, you know, to be able to let them hear things from a different voice.
All right, well, that's awesome, and that's not the only way you've embraced Chicago since you got here. I mean, you tweeted out pictures of you in a Cubs jersey, in a Bulls jersey. What do you like about the city outside of football? Like, what are some of your favorite spots to hang out, especially now with the weather getting better here?
You know, it's growing up in Detroit, you know, you're around all the major sports, you know, so coming to Chicago for me was, you know, and again, I grew up in the Midwest, you know, so I'm very familiar with Chicago, you know, and then being able to come to this town, you know, where it's basketball, football, 2 baseball teams, hockey, you know, it's always something going on in the sports town, you know, like whenever you look up, you know, it's the Cubs, you know, fighting to get into onto the playoffs. You know, it's us in the playoffs. You know, now it's the Bulls lottery. You know, so I mean, I think it has a very good connection, you know, to the city. And I mean, again, I'm a pretty big sports fan in general.
For sure. I'm glad you brought up Detroit because I was going to ask, do you like Chicago pizza better than Detroit? I don't even know what Detroit.
I do not.
What is Detroit pizza? I think like Little Caesars. But I think Detroit pizza.
It's funny. Everybody says that. I mean, it's a place called Jets that they have here. Fun fact: even for me, like when I was in Jacksonville, when I got there, I probably for the first month until I found out that it was a Jets there, I was eating Hungry Howie's, and I was like, man, it has to be a Jets. It has to be something to, and I ended up finding a Jets, and it was about 35 minutes from where I lived. Whenever I got pizza, I would go to Jets. Same thing here. It's probably
like the Jets, right? The square pizza. Yeah, I love Jets.
Yep. It's probably about 25 minutes from my house. It's a few around the city, you know. But whenever I want pizza, typically I'm going to Jets. I do like Chicago style though, but I think being brought up on Jets pizza, which is I guess a Detroit style pizza, you know, it's hard for me to go back.
Okay, I can rock with that because I like Jets. We had one right by my college apartment, so we got it a lot. And you're right, there are a few in the city that you can still swing through. All right, Alan, I want to talk about Penn State a little bit before I let you go. You were part of the Super Six there, that group of recruits. You got your boy Sam Ficken in the other room over here. Why was he not included in the Super Six?
That's tough to say. No, because he was in another group. I forget.
He said he was the same year as you.
Oh, no, he was. It was like I believe it was Sam, Zettel, Anthony Zettel. It was some other guys. They kind of had like their little group or whatever, you know. And then we had the Super Six. But I mean, he would have been welcome to join.
All right, you can tell him that when we get out of here. Another thing I got to ask about is the tattoo you got of your catch against Michigan. Big catch over Michigan DB. What was the funniest feedback you got from that tattoo? And did it come from Channing Stribling, who you got in the Twitter beef with after that?
It did. Yeah, at the time, it actually was very funny. I don't actually recall exactly what his tweet was, but I forgot, it was something about, like guys should just like focus on like football or trying to be good or something like that. And then ironically it was the year that I was at the Pro Bowl, so it was like my best year. But for me, anybody who knows me, I have, from Detroit Red Wings to the skyline of Detroit to my high school logo tattooed on me, and I didn't want to get Penn State logo. Nothing against Penn State, but I kind of wanted to just get something that really reminded me of Penn State, that, something that was very sentimental, which was the catch. So again, I'll probably be getting something Bears related or something like that pretty soon. So that's kind of how I look at my tattoos. I have a ton of tattoos, so I really try to get some inspiration, like that. And then that catch was probably the biggest moment that I had at Penn State.
As a Bears fan, I hope you get one of you guys hoisting the Lombardi Trophy.
No, that's the plan.
Let's talk a little Bears before we wrap up. Who is the toughest DB to go up against in the league as a receiver?
Toughest DB. Me getting a chance to go up against him each and every day in Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey, and I would say AJ Bouye too. Both of those, in my opinion, that's the best. Those are two of the best. When you break down DBs, we have some good ones on our team too as well. Like going up against Fuller every day. Fuller's good. He's really good. And I think that he's definitely he definitely should be in that top cornerback consideration as well. So again, I would say probably those guys. It's a ton of good DBs now. It's funny for me. When I came into the NFL, a lot of the DBs that were the best then are really retired now, like Revis, and so it's funny, for me always, each and every year when you're breaking down film, you're looking at the next best corner, so it's a lot of good young guys out there. Right.
All right. Bear specific now. You guys are a fun team. You kind of burst onto the scene last year. You got a fun head coach, a lot of young guys. You do the pictures in the end zone. You got Club Dub, all that. Who's the funniest or wildest kind of character on the team? I enjoyed when Tariq Cohen was charging for Club Dub. I assumed it might have been him, but tell me why it's him.
It has to be Tariq. Tariq, and it's funny because, he brings that same energy each and every day. I would say sometimes not in the morning. Sometimes we get in the morning, he's a little sleepy, so don't really mess with him too much. But, typically every day, he brings that energy, and I think that's really what made our team special. I remember him talking about one game against Miami. He was just saying that like Taylor Gabriel had a play, then I had a big catch, and then he was just saying how that energy fed into him, and then he had a big play, So I think for him, he's really kind of like that nucleus of energy on our team, and again, once he breathes that out, everybody just plays off of energy, and we have a lot of guys, even Mitch as well, it's fun playing with a quarterback like that that really gets that fired up. I was joking with him, it was a touchdown he scored against Detroit, and then he stares the camera down and then he flexes, and it's so funny because you don't really see too many quarterbacks, showing that kind of passion, in the game. Some, but not too many. A lot of guys are real chill and laid back, but it's real fun being able to play with him.
Who's too obsessed with social media on the team? Like, who's too into their phones? I notice you tweet a lot, so I don't know if it's you. I think I like when players do that, but who do you think is too into it?
Too into it. That's tough.
Like always on the gram or always doing.
That's tough. I think with social media being such a big thing now, it's tough to say. I feel like everybody now is really into social media.
I'll admit I am. Like all the time.
I am too.
Everyone says
again, especially like around this time, around I don't really tweet too much during football, during the season. Unless it's like something going on or something like that. But especially when this time, it's still kind of off season for us. Being able to talk to people about the basketball playoffs, about golf and stuff or stuff like that. So for me, this is really my biggest like social media time right now.
All right, quick yay or nay. Just give me thumbs up or thumbs down. Describe why you answered it that way for a few subjects here. Mitch Trubisky's beard, yes or no? Are you a fan?
I would say yes. He have a good beard. It's funny again. This lady, it was from some TV network, and she goes, she asked me about like Mitch's beard being horrible. And I'm like, dang, like I thought it was. My beard is pretty patchy, so his is pretty solid.
He's still young, Yeah, I feel like it comes in later when you get closer to 30.
It's pretty solid.
All right, the bear raid siren that goes on third down, the siren in the stadium.
I like that. Yeah,
I hated it when it first came out the first week. I'm like, what is that? Then it grew on me, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's our little thing on third down. You go to some everybody, and I think it's very unique. You see a lot of teams across the league, like they have a lot of the same stuff when it comes to third down, whether if it's music or like a noise or something like that. And I think that's very unique.
It's got a cool name too, catchy name. All right, Adrian Amos, Super 6, joining the Packers.
Oh my gosh, man. I saw him probably like a month ago. Nay, definitely. I don't even want to speak on that.
All right. And I don't know if you want to speak on this next question. We're going to wrap up with it, though. I got to ask it because my Bears fan friends and followers would kill me if I didn't ask. Just about how last season ended. Obviously, the double doink, it's kind of a meme now, and obviously very tough on the city and you guys. What's just your overall thoughts on the lost potential there and how that might motivate you guys heading into next season?
It still stings. I tell everybody, for me, I probably still not over. We just was watching as we're like breaking down film and clips in meetings now. You may see a clip from that game coming, and then like whenever you see that game, it's like, gosh, you kind of roll your eyes. For us, we was looking forward to where we had aligned ourselves, for the rest of the season. Being at home, wild card. I thought we played really well. We gave ourselves a very good, legitimate shot to win. And we liked our odds. Going into that whole playoff run. We had built a lot of momentum going into the season, going into like the end of the season. I think we won like the last 5 in a row or something like that going into the playoffs. So I think that's what stings about it the most is because every year is different. And I tell everybody else, it's harder. Going from first to first than it is from last to first. Mm-hmm. So I know for this year it's going to be a challenge for us. But I think everybody is up for the challenge. All
right, Alan, appreciate it. Best of luck going forward and everything you do, and appreciate you sitting down with me.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks once again to Alan Robinson for joining me. Really appreciate him taking out some time. Great to get him in and get his thoughts, especially at the end there about how last season ended painfully for the Bears and Bears fans like myself. And it's nice to hear, for players that they're still not over it either because it was a rough ending, the double doink and the missed kick and kind of lost potential that Super Bowl run that never happened with the Rams eventually making the Super Bowl. And you saw how the Bears handled the Rams and they played a close game with the Patriots earlier in the season. So hopefully it's not a what-if year. Hopefully they get it done in the next couple of years here and win a Super Bowl, and that's not the year that we look back on as them missing a golden opportunity. So let's move along now to our next guest, our next former Penn State player, Sam Ficken. As we talked about at the top of the show, Sam is currently on the Green Bay Packers roster. He's bounced around to a few different teams throughout the course of his career, and that's actually a good amount of what we get into is how to, as a kicker, as someone who is involved in a very malleable position in the NFL, how you deal with that uncertainty and how you stay confident and stay, in shape to be able to kick at that level. So talked to Sam about not only his Penn State career, but his NFL kicker lifestyle as well and some other topics. Another good discussion coming right up, and we'll get right to it. It's Take 10 podcast discussion with Sam Ficken, and it starts right now. All right, I'm very pleased to be joined in the BTN studio by former Penn State, current Green Bay Packers kicker, Sam Ficken. Sam, welcome, man. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Like I just mentioned, you're a member of the Packers now. Going to go to training camp with them, compete with longtime kicker Mason Crosby there. I've also been with the Seahawks, Redskins, Rams, I believe, over the years.
Not the Redskins, but
Rams.
Okay. Chiefs, Jaguars. So
gotcha. So you've been around the block.
Yeah.
What have you done to be able to, stick around and keep your phone ringing as a pro kicker all these years?
I would say, I think a little bit of it has to do with my position. I think you see like guys that sometimes at other positions, if they get out of football for, a few months or a season, it's really, really tough for them to get back in it. But I think due to what we do, and the fact that we don't really have to like play football in a sense of like hitting and doing some of the physical beat down that you get at other positions, it allows you to kind of continue training on your own and fine tuning certain things, a lot like golf.
Sure. What do you do in that downtime when you're not in a roster? How are you spending your time? Is it all working out? Do you have a side hustle at all? What are you up to?
I've had a obviously very vast career as far as traveling from team to team, and I've been cut quite a few times. So, I graduated from Penn State with a finance degree. So I was actually I worked for about 9 months at Merrill Lynch before I was signed to the Jaguars, and then after I was cut from the Jaguars, I ended up moving out to Greenwich, Connecticut, working for a company called Weeden & Co. So it's a equity broker So I did that for about a year, have all, like my Series 7, 57, 63 license. So, I know football's not going to last forever. So, luckily I was in a good position to, pick up a job and continue to train. Some long days, but, I thought it was worth it and ended up playing out in my favor. And, I'm back in football and on an active roster.
That's like a rare scenario. You're a guy who's, been in a cubicle and also been on the field, and a lot of your peers, obviously, on football rosters are not having the same experience. I feel like that's kind of unique.
Yeah. I mean, I would say they kind of ask, like, hey, like, how is it? I'm like, play football as long as you can. And as much as I enjoyed my other job, I think there's not too many jobs out there that, you get to have as much fun as you do playing football, and the camaraderie of being with a bunch of guys and some of the cool things that you get to experience while on the teams. So
during those times you're not on a roster, are you watching the games and kind of rooting for these guys to miss so some spots open up, or how does that dynamic work?
I wouldn't say you root for it, but you certainly stay keen to what's happening out there. And I have an agent that, if some guy is either struggling or, if a team's looking to bring in a guy due to injury reasons, like that's why I got picked up from the Rams, you just pay attention a little bit more than I would say you do as a normal fan.
Right, because the kicking community is pretty tight-knit. It's not like you want those guys to fail, I assume.
Yeah.
You mentioned last year an injury with the Rams opened up a spot for you, Greg Zuerlein going down. What was it like playing on a eventual Super Bowl contender and living out in LA and kicking for them?
No, it was great. That being my first experience playing in, real regular season games outside of preseason. And then, I had the one playoff game with them as well. I would say there's not many guys that their third NFL game is a playoff game. So to be able to experience that and, see kind of the difference between, the level of competition and, I've seen the college level and then, the preseason, which some guys don't take super seriously. And then obviously the playoff game, which, you have it all on the line. So certainly a cool dynamic to see and experience.
So I mentioned at the top, you signed with Green Bay. Matt LaFleur, their current coach, was in LA as well. Did that connection have anything to do with you ending up there?
I don't know. So they claimed me off of waivers after I got cut from Seattle after they signed Jason Myers. So I don't know what dynamic there was. Obviously, just really excited about the opportunity to continue and a chance to compete.
Logistics-wise, how does this work? Bouncing around so much. Like, do you have an apartment in Green Bay right now? Do you kind of parachute in and out? What's it like when you're competing for a spot on a team?
You certainly don't sign a lease. I'll tell you that. No, I would say I've gotten pretty good at living out of about 2-3 suitcases. But I'm young. I don't have a ton of responsibility, and I'm chasing something that I've dreamed of doing for a long time. So, obviously there's some sacrifice to it. So right now I'm sitting. I'm staying in a hotel in Green Bay, and I'll do that through the duration of the off-season training activities. And then I don't know what they do for camp. I would assume you probably on campus somewhere up there. You don't set down roots.
Very nomadic.
Until you're secured, yeah.
Right. So you're a Midwest guy from Valpo, Indiana. I actually didn't realize until right before we came in here that you were cousins with Robbie Hummel, who's also been on the show. So obviously a big basketball town in Valparaiso. Yeah. How did you end up playing football and not basketball? You're pretty tall too. I feel like you could have played.
Well, I did play growing up. I actually played with Robbie's younger brother.
There you go.
So we were born 4 days apart. So me and Dan grew up playing basketball together. I just unfortunately wasn't as good as Rob was. So
not many are. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I think for me, I love soccer, playing soccer growing up. I really didn't play football until my junior year. So I would say it was just about opportunity at hand. And, I thought with how hard I could kick a soccer ball, it would translate to football. And obviously it worked out pretty well for me.
So you got there in 2011. Were you part of that class?
Yep.
And your guy, Allen Robinson's coming in the studio later today. You weren't part of the Super Six, right, to clarify?
No. They would certainly, I think, not allow me in that. It was kind of funny. We would always rib them a little bit about, how they deem themselves the Super Six. But no, obviously really that whole group, I would say they were probably the most talented guys on the team. And they were all the closest friends. So, you look at them now, and I think 3 of them just signed massive contracts. So, the Super Six is doing super, I would say.
Yeah, we had Adrian Amos in here last year. He came on the podcast. Alan's about to be in here, like I mentioned. So, yeah, it's a cool thing. Getting deeper into your career at Penn State, I know you've addressed it a million times. Going to bring it up on the show. 5 missed kicks your freshman year against Virginia in a 1-point loss. You missed the game-winning kick. At this point, is it something you're sick of talking about and bringing up, or is it almost like cathartic to reflect on because of where you are now and how far you've come?
Again, I got so much grief from that game, and I think I've kind of it doesn't bother me at all anymore, really. And to be honest with you, I think that game really influenced and built me as a person, I would say. It made me a better kicker. It made me focus more on, what I needed to do and to improve. It allowed me to, really start a relationship with Robbie Gould, who obviously is maybe the best kicker of all time, especially in Chicago.
Right.
A lot of positives came out of that. And I think, it was certainly a learning experience for me and something that I don't only look back on it as it was a terrible day. And it certainly was. It was probably my worst day ever. How disappointed I was, in myself for my team and, what comes along with that. But a lot of good things, I would say, came out of it as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned Robbie reached out to you, a guy who missed kicks in Chicago, and they cut him, and now everyone wants it back for obvious reasons. What specifically did he do to help you through that time and develop that relationship?
So, obviously the games are on Saturday in college, but, Sunday evening, and he might have even had a game that day. I get a phone call, and I had his number on my phone preceding that, but it wasn't like a really dynamic relationship. Mm-hmm. It was, hey, good luck this year. Let me know if you need anything. And he called me, and obviously I picked it up, and he's like, hey, obviously saw the game. I saw a few things from just watching that I would recommend that you look at. Let's go over some film in the next few weeks. So, he took time out of his day to watch some of my practice film and game film and say, hey, here's what I recommend. Here's, what I think you could do to, really improve. And I think you can kind of see it, if you track my career, as that season progressed, I got quite a bit better. And I would say a lot of that goes back to Robbie and how much he helped me.
Yeah, it's an awesome story, and I've always been a big fan of Robbie, just growing up as a Bears fan, and it's cool to hear that, especially, when he didn't have to do something like that, being an NFL kicker, like you mentioned. If you could just take me inside the mind of a kicker and what it's like trying to move on from missed kicks and the anxiety that goes along with kicking, and how much of it for you is having a rhythm, because even for something like this, like an interview, for me, it's about rhythm, right? If I ask something that's stupid or that the guest reacts to weirdly, it's hard to kind of get back into that rhythm. And with anything, I feel like that applies. So what is your, approach to kicking when maybe the mindset is a little shaky?
Yeah, I think, as is everything, it comes with experience. And I would say I struggled getting into a rhythm early on in my career. And kind of as you get in these moments and you kind of experience them and understand how to deal with the pressure and deal with maybe a bad snap or maybe a questionable hold, or, obviously you have bad kicks yourself. So I think through, kind of going through those experiences and, as you get older and kind of more knowledge about what you do, maybe fundamentally or mindset wise, it just gets a little bit easier step by step. And I think, you obviously can see that in my career.
I've been curious because you kind of alluded to it earlier with teammates in the NFL or in college. It could be any football teammates, but you kind of alluded to how kickers aren't necessarily, full-on football players. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different specialty. So how do you think teammates perceive kickers, or how have you been received as far as, teammates that are supportive, teammates that might resent the fact that you come in and kick? How has that, experience been throughout your career?
Really, I've been fortunate with where I've been. I think everyone kind of respects you as a pro, no matter, what position you play. I would say there's guys that kind of grind you a little bit when it's like, conditioning segment, and they like look over and either we're like kicking on our own or doing something a little bit different to maintain our bodies because we have to do certain things that maybe they don't have to. They kind of get a little bit jealous and they'll grind you a little bit. But it's funny, they always say that, but then like come fourth quarter with 10 seconds left and the game on the line, a lot of those guys are like, I don't want any part of that. So, we certainly have a little bit different training regimen than some of those guys, but most places I've been, you're still expected to, do the conditioning, do the weightlifting. It's just a little bit different application to how you do it.
Sure. All right, a couple kicker-specific questions before I let you go, Sam. I've always been curious about this. How do kickers choose a face mask? Because, like, when I was growing up, some still had the one bar, and some have the more traditional. I assume there's, like, vision aspects have a lot to do with it, but how do you choose one? For
me, obviously, I would prefer just not to wear one and run the risk, but obviously that wouldn't be legal. But, again, going back to that one bar, I would love the one bar, but that's not legal anymore.
Bring that back. That'd be
legal. Yeah, I would be happy about that. But, for me, it's just about making sure that, when you look down, there's not a bar, obviously, in the sight of between you and the ball. Obviously, you want to be looking at the ball when you kick it. So, I'm not really big into, like, looks. I could care less. Just give me something that allows me to see as best available.
Or you could just, I know this will go against exactly what you just said, but just go full helmet with the visor, like just revolutionize the kicker image.
Again, I don't know if that'd be quite legal, but and I'm not ready to be paying NFL fines yet, so maybe someday down the road.
All right, so we go around to these football practices and in the summer, and we try and have players show us their talents, and oftentimes it's the specialists on the team that will have the quirky or wacky bit or talent or skit that they'll do for us. Did the specialists at Penn State have any sort of like thing that they did? Was there a skills challenge that you guys did? I feel like every group of specialists has something.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
There's a weird bunch in general, I feel like.
There are some. Yeah. There's some weird guys out there.
Maybe I'm stereotyping.
Sure. But I'm trying to think, and I can't recollect any crazy unique talents that I can think of. But
you guys are by the book then.
Yeah, Penn State. We recruit the normal kids.
Did you? Yeah, I mean it fits with the plain helmet and the no name on the back of the jersey.
Yeah,
and all that.
Yeah.
Any other unique hobbies that you do? I know you mentioned you play soccer.
I played soccer growing up. Obviously, nowadays that has kind of left me. Especially, I don't want to be getting hurt right now. But I golf a ton, as much as I can, really, weather permitting. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of getting into the swing of things up in Green Bay right now with that. So pretty excited.
For sure. And scrolling through your Twitter timeline, looks like you're a Cubs fan. Is that right?
Yes. I'm hoping to go to a game here one of these weekends that I'm back in Chicago.
Yeah, always a good time in the summer. I won't ask your football fan affiliation. I'll let you
all right, I appreciate that.
As a Chicago area kid and a member of the Green Bay Packers. So, Sam, appreciate you coming in, man. Really nice talking to you. Congrats on all your success, and thanks for giving me some time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks again to Sam for joining me. We'll move along now to our final segment of this episode, and that is our weekly Call for the Culture segment with producer Colleen Degnan. If you have not heard the show before, Colleen and I get into just general discussion of pop culture and the intersection of sports and entertainment and social media, and just kind of chat about what a couple of 20-somethings in the sports industry like to chat about, and have Colleen's take on just kind of that Venn diagram of sports and pop culture. So we'll get into that discussion right now. It's the Call for the Culture segment with Colleen Degnan. All right, we're back with another edition of Call for the Culture. After a brief hiatus, Colleen was in Europe. Colleen, welcome back. How'd it go?
Thank you. It was amazing. It was a great little vacation. and missed a lot of good sports while I was gone.
Well, you only missed one episode of the podcast. We all know that's most important. But catch me up. How did the trip go? You look rejuvenated. I saw some social media documentation of the trip, so fill us all in.
It was great. Hit up a few cities across Europe. One of my best friends is playing soccer north of Paris, so that was the main reason of trying to get out there to see her. So she was able to meet up with us in Berlin, which was super cool.
She plays for like a team,
a
professional team.
Mm-hmm.
Who?
A professional team. I
or what
can't
kind of league?
pronounce it correctly.
It's like a pro league.
Yeah, a pro league out in France.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's super sick, and so it was great to see her. But Paris was beautiful, rainy, but I loved it. Spent a lot of time in the little William Shakespeare bookstore because I'm a huge nerd, but I loved it. And then we made our way down to Nice, which was super relaxing. Got some nice sun time. Made it to Geneva, which was really cool. Saw the UN and the tallest mountain in Europe. As you know, I'm super scared of heights.
I feel like Geneva is one of those cities that kind of overshadows the country it's in. Like it's like has conventions there that are like for United Nations, and so whenever I hear Geneva, I almost think it's a country, but it's in Switzerland, right?
It's in Switzerland. Okay. Yeah, no, definitely had some Princess Diaries vibes for sure. But also
that's Genovia, though,
yeah, I know exactly, okay. But that's what we were laughing at, obviously.
The made up country,
exactly. But tons of European history, so it was really cool. I had like a walking tour there, and then ended in Berlin, which was so funky and cool, and definitely a city I want to return to.
It's interesting because obviously with World War II, like not being that long ago, Berlin is obviously had to evolve since then. And also the post-war stuff with the Cold War and my history is not exactly up to par, but the Berlin Wall is still there and all that, right?
No, entirely. The Berlin Wall literally wasn't like knocked down or whatever since 30 years ago. It's only been 30 years.
Yeah, only 30 years.
Like that's...
I mean, we talk about...
Insane.
The team that comes to mind in 89 is Michigan basketball and Illinois basketball. Those two teams went to the Final Four. That seems like recent. 5 years before I was born, and you think about the Berlin Wall, it kind of seems like ancient history, but it's wild to think that like the whole city was separated, like people were stuck on either side.
Exactly. So it was great. We did like a lot of history, a lot of museums, a lot of walking tours. So it was definitely cultural. So got some CollForTheCulture there.
Nice.
But now we're back, and like I said, what I missed the 4 overtime Portland game, but my jet lag was so bad.
Did you not get to watch it over there?
I woke, my jet lag was so bad that I woke up in time for the entire fourth quarter and all 4 overtimes.
Nice.
So it worked out in my favor.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about that, but it's kind of funny because we talked about the Blazers even during regular season on this show just because of your fandom, and it was kind of, at least in my eyes, like sort of a semi-joke. I didn't think they were going to make it this far, but here they are in the Western Conference Finals. Although they are down 0-2 to the Golden State Warriors.
Okay.
We're taping this on Friday, the day after they lost a double-digit lead and a late 8-point lead to Golden State. How are you feeling knowing that down 0-2 to Golden State, it's not looking great? What's your mindset right now?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of a running joke that I'm the endless optimist in this office anyways, so why stop now? I mean, we're headed back to Portland, so I think that also only losing by 3 in the second game, like obviously I think the Warriors stole it, but then they also earned that win in the last few minutes of that game. So if we can just like have Dame and CJ follow through in the fourth quarter and maybe make some crucial shots and not get stuck with the defense. I mean, like you can't take away anything what Golden State did. Like Draymond Green's defense in the end of it, like everything they did was incredible. Like Steph Curry's shooting's been insane. So I just think we're going to readjust. I think we're going to at least get a couple games. We'll see. Like I said, I'm staying optimistic.
Did you see before yesterday's game, CJ McCollum met
Jennifer.
Yeah.
He met Jennifer.
Yeah. For listeners who don't know, it kind of was a viral social media meme when McCollum on the Blazers tweeted, what was his original tweet? He tweeted,
I'm trying Jennifer.
Yeah, but the original one, because she said
he was talking. So this was last summer,
right? She replied to him saying win a playoff game first,
exactly,
win a playoff series first, and then his viral response was, "I'm trying Jennifer."
All this heat kind of started off of his podcast, Pull Up. Mm-hmm. He had KD on it last summer, and there was a lot of feud.
So that's what it was from. Yeah. I remember that feud. That was good, and that's why it's kind of lame that KD's not.
It's so
playing
lame
right now, so they can't square up. That's like to me like one of the main reasons that I've kind of soured on KD because he didn't handle that well. Like. No. He was kind of a jerk to CJ McCollum for no reason, and McCollum's always been, to me, a very likable guy.
I think he's a pretty good stand-up
It was funny that he met the actual Jennifer. They brought her in for that game in Oakland. yesterday, and it's one of those things where a meme springs to life and actually comes full circle.
It was cool. I was really hoping that they'd well, there's still a chance that they could get a game in Oakland just because since Dame grew up there and he has so many roots there. Super cool. Like, he's never been a sellout, and there's one of his Hulu ads that is outside of Oracle Arena.
That's funny.
And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so there's been like a lot of cool media surrounding this series, and
smart
obviously with the brothers too.
For Hulu, I mean,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to lose anyone in the Bay Area for a billboard like that, and it'll get some viral
absolutely
attention
not
for sure.
And it was fun. Minor thing that is just hilarious. I was born 40 minutes from Oakland. Cool. So another small connection today, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you have roots all over the United States. We've talked about that in the past, but it's been a great NBA playoffs. Like, even without LeBron, I think that almost has given a fresh perspective on everything. They're really entertaining. I don't know if you were in the country for Kawhi Leonard's shot on Sunday, but that was sick. One of those moments, kind of like with the Damian Lillard buzzer beater a few weeks ago, where I yelled, and I don't have a rooting interest in either team. It's been compelling. We had Drake trying to reverse the Drake curse and actually doing it with his 76ers shorts. Yeah. I was disappointed he wasn't at that game because that game-winning shot happened like 10 feet from his seats.
Yeah.
And the memes would have been, and just the virality of it would have been hilarious if he would have jumped on the dog pile, or like seeing how he would have involved himself in that celebration. I think was a big missed opportunity.
Well, I know you'll appreciate this. I didn't watch it live because, as you so gracefully tweeted, I had tuned into Game of Thrones, so I
can't even get into Game of Thrones yet. Well, let's save that for a little bit.
I'm just saying the reason why I couldn't watch it live is because I was watching that. So I saw the highlight.
As I tweeted, I said, all you Game of Thrones watchers are suckers right now because you guys missed the buzzer beater. But I want to keep it on the NBA for now because as good as the playoffs have been, I think the most compelling TV for me was the lottery on Tuesday night, just because I'm a Bulls fan, and you add in that Zion was up for grabs and the rights to draft him were in the air. It was really interesting, more so in the lead up to the event than the actual show, because it was some boom, 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 and hearts were broken like that.
I appreciated that efficiency.
Yeah, I don't mind when they get things done quick like that. It just, as a Bulls fan, it just ripped the Band-Aid off, So,
where did you fare? What number did you guys end up getting?
7. Again, it's the third year in a row they've got 7.
God.
The joke is like they got the slot machine. That's 3 years in a row they got the 7, 7, 7. So it stinks. Like, as a post-Jordan Bulls fan, like, I don't remember Jordan playing on the Bulls. I only know them as either a bad team or a decent to occasionally very good team when they had Derrick Rose. But I just feel like they're heading for that cycle of getting like between the 4 and 8 seed every year, and maybe getting to the second round of the playoffs and then losing because they don't have Giannis Antetokounmpo type talent. They don't have a Kevin Durant type talent. They don't have a Zion Williamson now type talent because Zion is going
throw my boy Dame in there.
Probably to the Pelicans. Yeah. So it's like, with being a Bulls fan, all you can do. I was mad at first. Like I probably dropped an F-bomb when it came up on the screen, and then at this point, it's more morbid curiosity and kind of just laughing at your misfortune, because what else can you do? It's just like, I don't think they'll improve the team enough to be a championship franchise, and sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying.
That's fair. I also think it's hilarious, all the talk now about the trade rumors and where all the free agents are going to fall. And
with Zion or with like KD or
with KD, okay. with Anthony Davis, mean, everybody. It's now the classic media trap of trying to predict all of these crazy situations. And the thing that drives me the most nuts is KD is still in the playoffs. You should not be talking about, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that it's like, oh, for sure he's going to be a Knick. Like, no. Like,
he's kind of like, he's also fueled that speculation, and especially Kyrie Irving as well has kind of fueled.
But at least Kyrie's done. Fine. You can focus on your next move. Like, KD, you're still like committed to the super team.
Yeah.
And Golden State.
Yeah. And you mentioned Anthony Davis. It's funny with Zion going to New Orleans probably now, because
deja vu.
Well, because Anthony Davis was pretty much 2 feet out the door in New Orleans, and the trade that everyone thought was going to happen to the Lakers kind of fell through.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, do they still trade him and try and get multiple picks or lots of young players, or do they try and make it work with Zion and Anthony Davis? I'm curious what you think. Like, there's been a knock on New Orleans and that franchise. What do you think about a player like the next star, most likely going to what's not really a basketball city.
I mean, yeah, but I also think that's the narrative that so many different other outlets and other people are saying for him. Like, the only statement that I've really heard from his family is that they're excited. Like, good. And you know what I mean? Like, he's been pretty correct politically and, like, sports-minded correct in this entire year of his life, which I think is stellar, and he could have messed it up very easily. So, like, kudos to Zion, to be honest. But I do think going to a city that's maybe not known for basketball is an exciting opportunity.
The thing is Anthony Davis a cautionary tale? Maybe. You know, he was the number one pick, and it hasn't really worked out. I go back to when I was in New Orleans a few months ago, and the cab driver said, we were talking about the Saints, and the Uber driver, whoever, he said the Pelicans could leave tomorrow and no one would care because it's a Saints city. Like, it's a religion to root for the Saints. I just don't know if it's baked into the fabric of that town, or has the potential to be as even, you know, a sliver of what the Saints have kind of grabbed as far as hearts and minds go down there. So it'll be interesting with Zion. I just love, like, you know, good for the Pelicans. I love the reaction videos. Like,
yes.
I felt like the emotion of the ticket office of the Pelicans reacting to seeing that number one pick. My favorite, I think, was the Knicks fans' reactions when they came back from commercial, and the first one they revealed was the Lakers getting the number 4 pick. So all the Knicks fans went nuts, and then boom, right after that, it went from like ecstasy to just a crushing feeling, the same one that I had at number 7, because at number 3 they got shut out of the Ja Morant or Zion sweepstakes. So I don't know if you saw any of those videos, but it was hilarious.
No, it's amazing. And I also just really appreciate, this is like sports fans being the best, because in a situation like this, like, maybe you think, oh, we should be gracious, like, we're still like top 4 pick or whatever. Like, for example, if you were to lose like in the Oscars or something like that, like nice clap or golf claps on the course. But like, no, sports fans, ruthless, devastation,
cutthroat.
Honest. I love it.
It's cutthroat. And, you know, I was thinking after watching the lottery and seeing kind of speculation or just discussion about the NFL draft, just coming fresh off that, what if people speculated? I think even the NFL Twitter account, the NFL draft Twitter account, tweeted like, hey, at NFL, we should do a lottery, which didn't make sense to me because I'm like, aren't you the NFL? Like, the NFL draft Twitter account?
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like a weird tweet, but, you know, that tweet kind of got ratioed. There was a lot of disagreement. But it got me thinking, like, outside of drafts, what could we do just in life that could be determined by ping pong balls besides an actual lottery and a draft?
What did you come up with?
I had a couple ideas. Actually, no, what did you come up with? I want to see what you had first, because don't steal mine. I see you looking at the list there.
No, well, like, the most hilarious thing, but it was, like, completely, like, just by random, like, the time that you got to go grocery shopping at the market. Like, something totally hilarious that would just, like, throw you for such a loop. Like, no matter as much as you could prepare and try to avoid hitting Trader Joe's at Sunday at 6 p.m., and you get stuck with that. You know what I mean?
True. It's tough. I mean, grocery shopping in a big city stinks. Like, it's not a fun experience. I like that.
I have absolutely no shame with. I have a cart that I actually wheel with me to and from the market if I know it's going to be
your own cart.
Yeah, like it's one of those cool. Like,
do you call it the market?
I guess I do. I feel like I've gotten criticized.
I was wondering what the market is.
Yeah, like Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Jewel-Osco, whatever.
So you have your own cart.
Yeah, it's not like a shopping cart. It looks like a little golf caddy cart. You know what I mean?
Funny story. When probably the first couple weeks after I moved to Chicago, me and my roommate, we lived sort of close to the Jewel grocery store. And we had a huge cart full of stuff, and we didn't drive, and it was too much to carry in bags to walk. So we're like, oh, we'll just take the cart out and just swing it by our place and drop it back off, and no one will care. It was one of those carts that locks, like, as soon as it goes outside the store. Like, we're so stupid for not thinking that they hadn't thought, like, oh, people might try and steal our carts. So, we walked, immediately locked, and we couldn't, there was so much food in there, we couldn't, like, move the cart. So we had to...
So you stalled.
So we had to take all of the bags in the cart, move them to a cart that's wheels actually weren't locked and wheels that worked, and I think I'd call an Uber to get our bags home because it was way too much to carry on foot. So that's my...
So that would be horrible. Give me... Yours is really funny.
Okay, my idea, do a lottery for the seats on the plane, and I'm making everything... up for grabs here. I'm talking first class, I'm talking business class, I'm talking window seats, aisle seats, seats near the bathroom, everything. And I'm trying to think the best way to determine, who gets the most ping pong balls in the running, because in, the NBA, it's, the tanking teams are the worst teams.
Right.
Teams with the worst records get the most ping pong balls. So I'm thinking airline points is one way to boost your chances. You want a better seat, kick in a few thousand airline points. Those things are just sitting in there most of our time in our accounts anyway. What's another way that we could determine that? I feel like general, just good behavior at the airport.
Good behavior.
Some people are like,
if you have
jerks.
the proper things in your carry-on or not, or if you have to be that person that has the liquids that
Baggage,
are over,
that's a good one.
you know what I mean?
That's a good one.
Are you checking? Are you not?
Yeah, it gets you a better chance at the front.
How many
first.
things do you have to take off, install the security line, which is just already anxiety?
And I think it should work like the NBA records. The more crappy hands you've been dealt, the more crappy seats you've had, the better chance you have of getting upgraded to first class.
I like
that.
Yeah,
this could work.
That could be fun.
It could be the next Southwest gimmick. Instead of just pick any seat, you get the lottery.
True. That's already stressful enough. I always forget to check in.
I forget to check in, and I end up in group 9 or whatever.
I'm C35. Every time.
Yeah. C35. It's weird. I've been on a streak of only window seats for the last almost year. And
on Southwest exclusively?
No, anywhere.
So that's your favorite seat?
Yeah, I always try and get the window. Actually, Southwest last time might have been in the aisle. That's the only one because I was late.
C35.
Yeah, so somehow even when you get the basic economy where it's you're below the lowest form of air travel, somehow I've been lucky enough where they just put me in the window seat. So I'm trying to keep that streak going. How was your flight to Europe, by the way?
There I did not sleep a wink, and on the way back, my friend that I was traveling with. I should not be laughing about this. She has a really bad nut allergy, life or death, with cashews and pistachios and a variety of other tree nuts. And they did not specify that there was nuts in the sauce of what was served in the dish she had. So we had a closed counter. She had an EpiPen on her. We didn't have to use it, but threw us for a loop on our way home. So not necessarily the best, but she's okay. Took a Benadryl and she's fine. But so yeah, dramatic flight home.
That is really scary, especially up there. I mean,
we were literally, get this, we were 2 hours in, so we were mid-Atlantic. We could not land.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yikes. Okay.
But she's doing well.
Thanks for putting that anxiety, planning that in my head.
Everyone be careful about the nuts.
Yeah. Okay. And just circling back to the lottery, and I think what makes this kind of newer phenomenon of video reactions, especially to non-games like the lottery, so good is because everyone kind of sharing the misery. I see these videos on Instagram and Twitter or whatever, and just the replies and the comments get me every time. And I've realized I've started to develop a concerning addiction. And it's thumbing through Instagram comment sections looking for the funniest reactions and jokes.
And trolling them? Or
no, just laughing. Because it's become basically in Instagram comment sections a contest to get to the top of the algorithm, right?
So is that getting the most likes?
The comments that get the most likes, which means they're probably the funniest because they have the most mainstream or widespread appeal. And so usually the first 5 or 6 comments, if they're not bots or whatever, are hilarious. And I just can't help crying because a lot of these accounts House of Highlights or ESPN or Slam or Bleacher Report, any of these Instagram accounts that have to do with sports will, kind of game the system so they know what people will react to. And I just will lay in bed before going to bed and just people think I'm crazy, probably laughing like the Joker in my bed at some of these comments. Some of the stuff on the Knicks videos and the Bulls videos were too good. I don't know if you have the same problem. I just had to get that out there.
Sympathizing with them. No, I feel it.
No relatability to that. I mean, it's the same with your personal Instagram. It's just you don't have a million people commenting, but you're still trying to game the algorithm, right?
I've kind of given up on the algorithm, to be honest.
Posting it at good times and stuff.
I've totally given up.
Really?
Totally. That's way too much pressure.
It's dangerous. I've had it before where I posted something on Saturday mid-morning. Terrible time. No one's looking at their phones then. Everyone's doing errands or out and about. And if you get caught in that undercurrent of no likes, it's embarrassing. You might not even crack triple digits on your Instagram.
You know what? I think other things are stressing me out more that I'm okay with that.
Very first world problem.
My Instagram is my personal account, but we're good.
I have to ask, were you here on Monday? Were you back in the office on Monday?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here. What happened Monday morning?
With John Beeline?
Yes.
Breaking news.
Yes. Were you here in the office when it happened?
Yes, I was. Yeah, me and Brent. It was me and Brent.
Yeah, you get here pretty early usually.
And John Beeline got the news broke that he's gonna be the Cavs coach. 5-year deal.
It was wild.
It
I
was
wanna know,
unexpected.
What was the reaction on the ground here? Because I was not here Monday.
I kind of thought maybe I had missed it in my like intense sleep that I like had like a 12-hour slumber, and no, it broke that morning, and everyone was like, "Wow, didn't really see it coming." Obviously, nothing but great words for him. Like, I think he's an incredible coach. Did great things for Michigan.
Yeah, actually,
super likable.
I slept in that morning till like past 10 o'clock, and so it had already been
So
out
you
there.
woke up, you were like,
for 2
"Wow."
hours, and I'm like, I'm seeing all these messages on Slack and stuff, and I'm like, what happened to John Beeline? And it took us by surprise. Like, I kind of thought last year was maybe his one, flirtatious period with the NBA. He thought about taking the Pistons job,
Right.
it seemed like, and then he decided to stay. So I thought maybe that was out of the picture, but it's a pretty big loss, I think, for the Big Ten. Now, Michigan, he's elevated that Michigan brand to a place
Totally.
where they can swing big and try and replace him with another high-profile, respected, and elite coach, and maybe they will. So maybe the drop-off won't be significant with the new guy, but I think there's no way you can deny the fact that it's a tough situation just for the league in general, because everyone liked dealing with him, and it seemed like the program was taken to heights that consistently that they hadn't reached ever, really.
Exactly. I think it's going to be exciting to see his style of coaching, though, professionally. So we'll see.
I just don't know how, NBA coaches get chewed up and spit out, I feel like, so often. And he's already, he's in his 60s. And
he's what, 65? Yeah.
I think 66.
Okay, yeah. Up there.
And it's just interesting. I feel like coaching in the NBA is such a there's such a less of a weighted significance placed on it compared to college. Like, it's so much of a players' league compared to a coaches' league in the NBA. And there's a few elite coaches and a few guys who hang around, and even guys that got by on talent, I would argue, like Eric Spoelstra in Miami for a while, but then also proved themselves as a coach and hung around. But, a lot of it is just a revolving door, and these guys get chewed up and spit out. So I'm curious to see how he makes it work there in Cleveland. LeBron. Kevin Love's still there.
Kevin Love is still there. And
Colin Sexton's a good player there.
They're the 6th pick in the draft?
Yeah, they were one of the teams that obviously was in the lottery, and they're not top 4. I think that sounds right.
Yeah, something like that.
Don't fact check us on that.
Yeah. But best of luck to him.
Yeah.
Excited to see what he
I thought it was
does.
interesting to see, a lot of people, everyone wants to, decry the I guess what's plaguing college basketball, the problems with college basketball. And a lot of people want to use this as the latest example, one of the best coaches is leaving. The sport is in bad shape. I don't really buy that necessarily. I mean, I don't think he left because of some of the issues that have hurt college basketball, especially in the last couple of years with the FBI investigation going on and some of the stains that have been put upon the sport. Beeline obviously is famously well regarded as been a clean coach and done it the right way. But I just think the reason was probably leaning more towards, he even said it in his own words yesterday at the NBA Combine here in Chicago, there's never a good time to leave. This is obviously something that he's had his sights set on, and it's the last step in his coaching ranks, literally from high school on up.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's more that than, he couldn't stand the sport of college basketball anymore because it's so dirty. I don't think it's that.
I totally agree. I mean, you just got to compare it to any other career path. You always want to get that next promotion, that next gig, keep moving forward. And like you just said, it's the highest place he could get to in his coaching career. So I don't judge him at all for leaving.
I mentioned the NBA Combine. He was there yesterday. It was funny.
Was that his first time speaking to the media?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and his players,
pretty low key.
Some of his players are there, former players. Charles Matthews, Iggy, Brazdeikis, Jordan Poole were all there, and it's interesting because we got the Combine here, and I can't remember how long it's been here. I don't know if that's been a long running thing. The first time this year they had the G League Elite Camp, I believe, which was a couple days before. So really, a ton of college basketball players walking around, and it's all leading into the All-Star Game this year in Chicago, 2020.
Combines, I love all of the random agility work they have to do in the dimensions and everything like that. I think it's hilarious. All of these skills, obviously are transferable and necessary.
Do you have a favorite?
I mean, the best one I would be is the wingspan, because I have taller wingspan than my height. So,
really?
Yeah. By 4 inches.
Do most people have a taller one? I feel like that's...
I don't know. This probably is. I have pretty long
The good ones are comically, outsized ones, the guys with really long arms that have like a 8-foot wingspan and they're like 6'10".
So sick.
That always blows my mind. All right, we talked a lot of NBA basketball, a lot of news that's broken. We have to close it out with a subject that I swear every time that I'm not going to talk about, but since we're nearly at the end, keep coming back, and we got to talk about it. It's Game of Thrones. You mentioned you were watching. Let's get your reaction since you watched the show and can give us a first-hand take.
It was very dark. This episode was just like war zone territory and like death and destruction and no sort of morale from one of the main characters, Danny. Like, it was just nuts. And like I said, I was watching that over Kawhi's intense game-winning shot.
Were you watching with people?
My roommate.
Okay, so you guys shared that sentiment like it was not your favorite episode, or it was a downer?
It was a definite downer, but like also to just like going back to the cinematography, it's like insanely good. The graphics are unreal. I mean, I know there's been a lot of backlash. Like everybody's criticizing the directors and want a redo of the whole entire season 8 and everything like that. And I don't know. I think that's too harsh of a take. Like somebody's got to win the throne. They're just like getting there.
Has it gotten worse though? Like, because like you said, I feel like there's been backlash on social media. How this season is ending shaken your enjoyment or faith in the show at all?
Like I said, I don't think I'm the best person to be weighing in on this.
Right, you're not like a hardcore.
Yes.
Still.
No, I mean, I think it's still highly entertaining, and it's like, obviously, I think any show that evokes this much emotion on all sides of the spectrum is clearly doing something right.
I think,
like, you're going to upset people.
No, but I think what like gave me the most sense of annoyance or just kind of like fear of missing out throughout has been observing pretty much unanimous admiration and enjoyment of the show from pretty much everybody. Like, I almost didn't believe that it was possible in this day and age for something to be almost universally acclaimed, right? Like, everybody loved it, and it was almost annoying in a sense. You know how the neighbor next door has like everything going for him, and you're like, or your buddy is like everything going for them, and you're just like, how can they possibly, like, how does everything go right for them? And that was kind of me watching the show. I'm like, there's no way that there's something that everybody just enjoys, no questions asked, right? So watching these last few episodes and the social media reaction and just the stuff that I've kind of absorbed through osmosis on, other podcasts when they talk about it, and I try to understand just kind of by half listening, it's been fascinating to see some people start to turn. I knew it was coming. I knew the turn had to, like, actually there was doubts, but I thought maybe there was eventually people were going to turn on it, and lo and behold, like, there's been a definite swell of kind of discontent. There's been people, like you said, I haven't seen any, like, people that I know personally trying to petition to, like, change the show. Like, that's, like, been swirling on Twitter and stuff, right? Petitions.
Exactly.
I haven't seen any of that, but like people questioning the arcs of some of the characters and the endings to certain, I guess, lives and characters in the show. It's been funny to watch because the cracks are starting to come in. I knew it couldn't hold eventually.
I mean, there's one episode left, so that's all people have.
It kind of reminds me of the end of Lost.
Oh my God, don't even get me started on Lost.
I watched a lot of Lost, and like I was still young enough where a lot of it didn't stick with me. Like, I remember big major plot points and big characters, and then I remember obviously the finale, watching it. I wasn't like super invested.
Oh my gosh, I am a proud owner of seasons 1 through 3 on DVD.
People kind of hated those final few episodes, right?
Yeah, the last season was trash.
Right, so it's kind of reminding me of that now that, like,
but you have to finish.
The sentiment's starting to turn. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I think Breaking Bad's a show that almost everyone loved, and almost everyone loved the finale of that.
I never watched one
really?
Episode.
Okay, well, I think that was a show that somehow managed to mostly carry a positive fan reaction throughout. Like, I think people actually liked how they wrapped it all up.
I'm trying to think if I know any other shows. The OC got really bad towards the end. Gossip Girl, controversial.
It's just hard with TV shows.
It's really hard. When they go on for that many seasons.
It's hard to keep people engaged. It's hard to make everyone happy. It's hard to conclude everything neatly.
Yeah. Okay, one show that we both love, Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Still's got me invested, but there are only two seasons
deep.
Just
if it gets like 6 or 7 seasons,
the third season comes out in June 5th, June 6th.
Yeah, perfect. I guess analogy there with June and June.
I know, obviously.
I don't know if that should be considered an analogy. What is?
Just timing. Great timing.
I guess. Yeah. Just a nice
Good
play on
scheduling.
words. Pun.
Madness programmers.
It's a pun.
Yeah, it's true, I guess. June airs in June. Yeah.
All right. You wouldn't be able to tell I was an AP English student. All right, Colleen, plenty of good stuff. What's coming up now? I guess we got maybe one more episode to squeeze in before I leave town and miss a couple weeks, so make the most of it. This was good. Let's get back at it next week, and maybe your Blazers will be still alive, and maybe we'll find some new subjects to dig into. Less Thrones, less NBA, more variety.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Alex.
All right.
Talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks once again to Colleen, Sam, and Alan for joining me. Great episode. Love talking to these interview subjects in person. It's I think much better for the flow of the conversation, for the comfort level of the interview, and I just think it overall sounds better when you're sitting face to face. So had a lot of fun doing that. Appreciate those guys coming in. Appreciate everyone out there who listened, and hopefully all of you will continue to listen as we move throughout the summer. We'll get an episode to you next week as well, and we'll keep it rolling throughout the summer, even when the college sports stop. The Take 10 podcast is not, and that means we also have had our helpful producers contributing to the show as well, Wes White and Julie Bronder. It's always one of them every week knocking it out, so I appreciate them. Once again, appreciate everyone who tuned in, and we'll talk to you soon here on the Take 10 podcast.